Song for Movie Podcast. Some are pretty good, but we'll just suck ass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Watch with us, we're Cinema Buns. Let's go!
Why you coming home?
In this
9
house,
in the morning.
I am Ritter.
I'm Mike.
In this house. In this house?
The house?
In this house.
Yeah, we are talking about the new indie horror movie,
Skinny a twink.
Skinny Me and Then Wink.
Should we just go off the bat? This was a
Skinamarink. The movie's called Skinamarink.
micro budget.
Oh yeah.
$15,000 was the budget.
For the
Understandable. I
Yeah.
think 15,000.
15,000.
that is nothing.
I think that was all just the royalty free stuff that they bought.
Yeah.
The royalty free like footage that they bought. I'm not sure.
It wasn't royalty free. It was actually public domain, so
Yeah.
they didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, but like probably some of the sounds and I'm not 100% sure if all of the visuals were filmed by Kyle Edward Ball. I think some of those are just like footage you can find from like a stock like a stock repository.
That 15,000 was for
probably
camera
marketing.
equipment and lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15,000 Canadian. My
Oh,
apologies.
Canadian. So that means it's even less USD.
Shoot.
Because
Did we surpass the Canadian dollar?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
think so.
boy.
We did it, America.
We did it. Yeah. Woo!
Oh my god, in US dollar that's only 11 grand.
Oh, damn.
So, this movie, I physically could not drink water during the movie.
You heard of shoestring budget. Get ready for micro shoestring budget. I forgot what it's called.
Kevin and I met eyes as soon as you said micro, and we're like, what the fuck is he even gonna say?
You guys think this is a shoestring budget? This is more like a my penis budget because it's tiny.
Hey!
Talking about a shoestring budget, more like I don't have shoestrings because that's expensive. My shoes don't have laces on them.
Should we go into beginning thoughts? Just if we liked or disliked the movie.
Well, I think we need to go into slightly more detail.
What's this movie about, Mike?
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the whole point of the movie is you're trying to figure out what it's about.
No,
I feel like
you're kind of introduced to it pretty quick.
I mean,
Well, it's piecemeal to you.
yeah, I'll just say like the whole point is trying to form your own opinions on like what you think happened.
What does the DVD summary say?
I have no idea. You mean the
Skin-
VHS summary?
Skinamarink is about two boys who wake up in the middle of the
brother, sister, dude.
No, sorry, brother, sister. You're right. It's about two kids that wake up in the middle of the night and they can't find their dad, and suddenly all the windows and doors leading out of the house no longer exist.
And so they lock up in the living room
Yeah,
and then just make camp and watch public domain cartoons.
and do what they can as terror ensues.
It's an incredibly dark movie, as if it was recorded on VHS.
Yes.
Now, do we think it actually was? I don't think it was.
It was a filter that he used.
That's
but,
what I was, because
then you won't have as much control.
Yeah.
yeah, because
So it was a filter that he used.
well, but you can take like digitally filmed stuff, and then you can. I mean, this would be such an ass process, but then you can transfer it to VHS tapes, and then
guess.
you can take the VHS copy
Just record
and then
them.
re-record it, and then
Twice. You got to re-record it twice
so
to really
yeah,
get the effect.
because I mean, you could get a full picture, put it on a VHS,
Yeah.
then put it in, and then just record off the VHS, and then you get the VHS quality.
Yeah, from what I've learned in like photography and shit is that you want to just like photo something in like its highest fidelity because then you'll have more room to downscale it because you can't make up new pixels. You have to take pixels away
Unless you're
AI because we can do that now.
or unless you're oh fuck. He did Inception. Christopher Nolan, who only does film.
Yeah.
Doesn't Steven Spielberg also still only do film?
I don't know if he does only because like Polar Express is like a CGI movie.
Yeah. Okay, fair. All I know is that Christopher Nolan exclusively does like film recording.
Tarantino
still.
probably does too.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But
The guy would fuck a reel of film if he could.
but yeah, it's a filter
film.
on the movie. I kind of wish they did actual VHS recording. That would be cool.
I feel like that'd be so much more work.
I mean, like, yeah, when this movie comes out on home video, it's probably gonna be in VHS.
Yeah,
And it's gonna look even worse.
So yeah, so like the kind of selling point in this movie also is that it in an endearing way, this movie looks like shit.
yes, yes,
You
because
can't
it's meant to.
you can't fucking see anything. The camera is pointing at a corner of a room, and whenever people are talking,
at people's feet.
I'll use
people
a-
are talking. There's
I'm
Yeah.
gonna use the buzzword.
No,
that I
no,
kept
they
hearing
do
for this
that,
movie.
or they're. Like they're whispering from across the room, but
through a
that.
tin can. Yeah,
But the thing is that
It is-
builds more into the like.
it is
movie.
100% all atmosphere and tone, which is like so because like we all saw the trailer minus Mike, who we kept trying to show the trailer to, but he kept not getting it.
Which is great because then
Yeah,
because like
when it completely blind.
the tone of the trailer is what like got us in the first place, and we were like, yeah, we'll see this movie.
Kevin's like, "Hey, have you seen this?" We watched the trailer, and I went, "We're buying our tickets now, right?"
This was definitely your guys' movie.
Oh, dude, okay. Some of the IMDb reviews have been pretty funny. Of like, what are all your nerds crying about? It's a camera pointed at a corner for 100 minutes.
Yeah.
But this is the only movie that has legitimately scared me in like 15 years.
It had
It's
the opposite for me.
really.
Yeah, I don't get scared I don't get scared of my mind stuff. I get scared of visuals and like things that pop out and like try to actually like
Like
physically-
those jump scares and
jump
like,
scares
monsters
and like
shit.
seeing monsters and seeing gore and stuff. That's the stuff that scares me. My imagination doesn't scare me at all, and that's what this movie is.
Yeah, because
In the darkness, he sees big titty goth women.
Kevin was saying that like this movie kind of makes you work for your horror.
Yeah.
In the sense that a lot of the horror comes from your own mind.
Yeah,
And like I think I would argue it also comes from what it insinuates is in the darkness.
Mhm.
Because that's the other aspect. And I feel like this film does a really good job of being told from the perspective of kids trapped in a house.
Mhm.
It is kids are dumb. They're not dumb, but they just don't know what to do.
They also have like kind of just a very active imagination.
Yeah.
So they are afraid of like things in the closet under the bed. This is very much. It's like the monster is your paralysis demon.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But there's legitimately no way out.
mhm.
yeah.
And it's like the entire movie is very dreamlike. It's surreal. It cuts
Yeah.
to different scenes. The camera is flipped upside down.
Sometimes the like timeline of events doesn't quite line up to how you would expect it to be.
Yeah.
And again, all of this serves to build the atmosphere and the tone, but I think it also serves to build the story as well.
Like the scariest part for me of this movie was the sister.
Just anytime Kaylee was talking.
No, just that one.
No, the scene with the sister.
Yeah.
Oh, she's just sitting.
that
in
was
bed.
that was the one scene that got me.
We'll get to that later. But it, and I think something interesting about the story is it also opens it. The story is opened up to interpretation a lot because, like, at the beginning, you're introduced to some like seemingly random like movements and noises and stuff like that. I interpreted it as an abusive father because like it's pretty clear in the story that like the mom and dad are divorced.
Well, they're together at the beginning. I thought.
No,
You don't think so?
they're not.
Because they're both still living in the same house.
No, they're not.
You don't see the mom at all. Or if
You
you're
see,
you do.
you see the mom once shit starts happening,
Mm-hmm.
but is that really the mom?
Who knows?
The way I saw it, the mom was not living in the house because who was the dad calling about the kid who got hurt?
Well, that's the thing. That's up to interpretation. It could have been the grandmother. Could have been someone else.
I think the parents are divorced. The dad is like, I don't think the dad is obnoxiously abusive, but slightly so, because like you see one scene where like the kid goes up, leaves his room, but then you hear like you see the dad's door open up and quick footsteps, and then like another door slams shut and you hear screaming and then it stops. Now the dad says, oh, he was sleepwalking and fell down the stairs and he got a cut on his head but didn't even need stitches, whatever. And then at another part, Kaylee's like, I don't want to talk about mom. And during one instance, they're like, why is mom crying? So I feel like that's where I'm kind of getting it from.
Okay.
But again, like we just demonstrated,
it's up to
interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's inspired by the kind of like universal childhood dream that you have, that you just kind of like remember feeling a sense of dread, because like we don't remember specific things about our dreams like a lot of the time, but like when we wake up we have a lingering feeling of what happened. So it takes a little bit from that, and also just kind of like weird shit that happens in your dreams when you're a child. Because like, you know, when you're that young, the world only goes as far as like your yard, and like you don't know anything else out there. So in order to you get like a bit claustrophobic whenever you have a nightmare as a kid. And so the only things you know is just like the inside of your house and what's in the darkness. And like, and since dreams are just what our brain is doing to like consolidate information and like kind of just like make shit up. Takes your memories and just builds an AI generated picture out of it. That's kind of like is what is going on in this movie. Because like you mentioned before about what I said is that you're working during this movie. You're putting in work in the darkness and in the fucking just static shit that's going on screen. Your brain also tries to see patterns. It tries to see faces in the darkness. And
funny story about that.
And it tries to just...
Damn, you guys were getting way more out of this movie. I was like...
Funny story about that. My wife, actually, at the beginning, because there's like a blurry outline of a face that happens later in the movie. But my wife's like, oh, it was the same face from the beginning, right? And we're like, what face at the beginning? Oh, that one that shows... We're like, there wasn't a face there. And she's like, did I just see things? And that was just a perfect example of that. Like,
I'm so jealous of you guys. I didn't get this.
It's a 100-minute Rorschach test.
Yes.
So,
which is what I said like after we left the movie.
And it hit me because this movie is tense and it has that dread almost from minute one. Like, maybe not minute 1, but like
from the kind of get go, you're just kind of struck with confusion. Like, what the fuck am I watching?
you're uneasy from minute 1, but then like once stuff starts popping off, I literally my throat was so, when I said I couldn't drink water, my throat was so tense when I tried to drink water. I was doing those super hard like from cartoons because like I had to force it down my throat. It wouldn't go down.
You know what this reminds me of? So Skinamarink, if you're ever able to own it on VHS, is such a good like prop to
play in the background
to play in
for
the
a
background
haunted house.
Yeah. So and it's like it's the fucking Ring video.
Oh my god!
Because like the video in the Ring is just weird. It's just a person walking next to a well
or disgusting imagery and
Yeah.
stuff.
And like the angles are fucked up and like you can't see anything and the sound is disturbing. This movie, like, for it being like silent 90% of the time, whenever it has sound, it plays fucking loud.
Yeah.
It's mixed and played loud.
And again, that just adds into the like uncomfortableness you get while watching it.
Yeah.
And any bad stuff that happens is not shown to you.
Which is like...
Except for one part, but again, that's more in the spoiler territory.
Yeah, so like we said before, this movie is just a camera pointing at a corner or like flipped upside down or staring at a wall. And it does that for like 100 minutes. And it's like kind of just like, this is kind of like one of the most original things I've ever seen in a movie. But like on the back of my mind that's super analytical and like understands how movies are made, I'm like, this is just like footage Kyle Edward Ball bought of like camera pointing at TV, camera pointing at living room, flipped, edited, and then the thing that took me out a lot was just the sound effects.
Yeah.
Because like all of the footsteps sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even if it's like Kaylee's walking on carpet and her feet are supposed to just slide over it.
Yeah.
Soft, like over soft carpet. It's fucking just grass crunching.
Yeah,
I'm like, that doesn't match. Is that intentional or is that just cheap?
I think that's intentional because you got to think of it in the fact that like think yourself as a kid again, because again, this is based off that dream, and like things are more exaggerated in dreams in general.
Yeah, weird shit happens.
Yeah.
But not only that, but this is a house that is in dead silent except for the TV.
Yeah.
Any noise that happens comes from the kids or from the entity.
Yeah.
And like I feel like the argument can't be made that because of how silent things are, even something that's normally quiet like stepping on carpet is going to sound super loud because of the emotional like state the kids are in and we're in, and also like just how silent we are. So I think that was intentional, or maybe it was a little of both.
it could have been a little of both.
Yeah, because like the way the reason I also say a lot of it could be just like stock footage that Kyle Ball like bought is that you don't see anyone talk on screen like explicitly. You don't see people's mouths move. You see the back of people's heads, and you hear dialogue piped in. And I'm like, this movie is made in the editing software. Like, this movie was this thing that I'm watching is edited together to look like a movie, which is like interesting, especially for something that's like a wide released feature film. It's a series of clips that someone edited dialogue into and created arcs and characterization to strictly through editing. Although I don't know how much he actually like recorded himself, or if like he told the kids to, or like acting directions he gave to the kids.
Yeah.
Or the kids told to do anything.
Well, luckily for this movie, you can't say the child acting was bad.
Because like this movie, it's like completely manufactured through editing.
Yeah,
because like you could place any clip of this movie and put it in any order, and it still functions the same way. assuming you kept the audio exactly the same.
Yeah.
I could have been staring at a wall and like listening to an entire conversation that two people are having. Like that's the kind of movie this was.
Yeah. So, Mike, you said this movie didn't capture you like it did us.
Not at all. Like I said, the only times it got me was when it actually showed something.
Okay.
I did appreciate the cartoons actually. Not only because I just am a fan of cartoons, is also because they
almost
gave you the basically what's.
They almost gave you a bookmark for the story.
Yeah.
Because the cartoons ended up lining up with what's happening.
Right.
Like the events that are currently happening or the events that are going to be following up
Right.
this exact moment.
So like that, and then
It's also kind of like the beat of the movie. It's how you can like kind of separate what's going on.
Yeah.
whenever you heard that ringing, that bells sound, I guess the chimes.
Oh, from
I
the,
thought
like,
that was really interesting,
Yeah.
and how they played with the editing there
Um,
with those parts of objects.
I did think it was interesting how like they would show you a wall, and in order to indicate that a door used to be there, it'd be like brrrr,
Yeah.
and then disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love this. So something I noticed, like, where'd the window go? And it's just blinds that they screwed into the basement wall and took footage of. And then like the back like glass door for like the backyard, when they opened up the blinds, they just edited in a section of blank wall over it. But it was like, oh man, that's good. And then at one point where it's still kind of scary, but at the same time, it was like, oh, come on. Like, why do you have to do that? The toilet disappeared.
Yeah, the toilet was funny.
So they fucking put a bucket and a mop.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was good. That was good. I like that part.
It was just like, oh, come on. At least leave them a toilet. Come on.
That was brutal. But other than that, like, I looked at my phone because I was like, okay, it is 7:39 p.m. We're an hour in this movie, and things have finally started to happen. That's how I felt, unfortunately.
This movie, went at like kind of a glacial pace, and like kind of just like my final verdict of it is that I actually don't like it as much as you, Ritter.
Really?
Yeah, no, I think it did. I feel like this doesn't need to be a feature film, and that this is like an incredibly good short 30-minute film.
So I have read online that people thought that the YouTube short he did was more effective because he did a YouTube video of this. His like development into making this a feature film was kind of similar to. Do you guys remember Lights Out?
I was gonna mention
No.
Lights Out. So Lights Out is just a short, and the premise is that a monster
Only
only-
comes when the light is out.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
I
So
like that
the lights
premise.
are on and there's nothing in the hallway, and then you turn it off and you see a silhouette. And every time you flip it on and off, the silhouette gets closer and closer.
But it physically does not exist in the light.
Yeah.
And it was a short made by the director and his wife just at his house.
Yeah.
And production company saw it and they're like, hey, we want to do a full feature-length film of this. Feature-length film is decent, but again, like
Not the same effects.
compared to the YouTube video was more effective in my opinion.
Because it was like bogged down by like characters and actors that have the
Exactly.
potential to fuck it up by like acting stupid
Right.
or like you don't like them or something. But like you have the bare essence in the short of like just what the dread and what the source of the dread is.
I was watching a review about this, and a lot of people were like, it gives that same sense like the Blair Witch trial or whatever.
That's
whatever
what
the
a
fuck-
lot of people have been comparing.
It's the
it
last
to.
shot of Blair Witch
Yeah.
Project
Just
stretched out
100
for
minutes.
And like I understand by stretching it out for so long it intensifies your feeling. But like 30 minutes in I'm like I get it.
Yeah.
I know what this movie is doing and like you're trying to trying to make me feel this dread and I'm feeling this dread. What's the point of like it continuing?
I feel like I feel like during the last like 15-20 minutes, they had the Lord of the Rings issue where they had like 6 endings. There were like 6 points where I would have felt 100% satisfied if they ended it. But
It kept going.
it kept going. And like I told my wife on our way home, I'm like, near the end, I thought about looking at my phone, not because, oh man, how much longer we have. It was more of like, oh God, how much longer do I have to be this fucking tense? Let me go! Release me!
Yeah, maybe because I'm not a big horror buff to begin with, so I don't have like things to pull from to like really make my brain go on like super like fear mode and try to imagine what I'm trying to see.
It's hard to say because like I didn't have a lot of fear from I did do that a couple of times. I don't know, like the part where like go to look under the bed, I literally went, oh God, what's gonna be under there?
Don't look,
What's
bitch.
gonna be there? And I look and nothing's there, and I'm like, there's nothing there. Oh God, what's gonna be there when they get back up? And it's like, ah! I was dying. But this kind of goes back to, I think, the most generalized argument made for art ever. Everyone's a critic. Everyone has their own opinions.
Right.
There are 100 people, and you can have 100 different ways that people interpret and absorb the information and the story. So, like, even on our own podcast, we've had quite a few movies where, like, one of us absolutely fucking love it, the rest hate it,
Right.
vice versa, doesn't matter.
Because I will say I did feel tension when he was like when they were going to check under the bed, but when there was nothing there, and then they got back up, and then there was still nothing going on, my torment turned into disappointment, and then I was kind of like, oh, and then that lingered for the rest of the film, or like things like that would happen to me, and it would make my worry less and less and less and less. Because I was like, nothing's happening. And they keep saying that something's going to happen, and still nothing happens.
I will make the argument that some of the times that nothing happens, it works to build up the tension more. Because with most horror movies, when the jump scare, when the thing happens, it is releasing that spring in you.
And I was waiting for it.
And it gives you a breath. But in this movie,
never gave
it's
it.
just like you put a trampoline spring under a hydraulic press, and you're just going more and more and more. So
Just like, when is this thing going to happen?
Because mine is like 4, and then I'm out of the movie.
Yeah.
You can tune me up 4 times, and then I'm out. Like, I'm not scared after 4. I'm like, oh. And then like the 5th one can happen, I'd be like, it's already ruined for me.
If it doesn't capture a certain feeling in you, because like what the movie is doing is just like trying to give you a certain feeling and then try to hold that in place.
Yeah.
If it's not holding it in place and you're like, just like, if you now kind of just like woken up and you're like, nothing is literally happening.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna have like find issue
And
watching
unfortunately, that's what it was for me.
I will say I am happy and surprised that this does not have the crimes against the future.
Crimes of the Future.
Crimes of the future.
See, I feel like I
situation.
would be
Where no
mortified
one-
of that movie.
where no one walked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Because even I objectively, even though I like the movie, I'm like, okay, normally people would have walked out by now.
Yeah.
But not a single person walked out of our showing. And
Yeah.
it's not like it was just us. I think,
It was like
maybe
kind of a-
20 people total?
there was
Yeah,
a handful of people.
Yeah, and it was like kind of a diverse group of like, in the 4th row is just like kind of like some old guys.
Yeah.
And then like there are some young girls, and like they came out of the movie going like, I'm never going to sleep again.
Yeah. So I will say I was very happy that happened. Meanwhile, when Kevin and I went to see Crimes of the Future, it was just us and another couple. And literally before the movie started, I went, okay, I'm starting the clock. How long until they walk out? And then 30 minutes later, they fucking dip. And we're like, hey, there it is.
I was more tense in Parasite for sure than this movie. There was more tense scenes in Parasite.
Okay, now I feel like we're gonna have to do an episode of Crimes of the Future just so we could force Mike
And
to
then-
watch it.
God, I really don't want to watch Crime of the Future. I know I'll be scared of that movie.
I don't know if I want to watch Crimes again. To be
That was, I mean, short review of Crimes of the Future. Huh? That was an interesting, weird movie. I never want to watch it again.
Just when
Not-
it's just
not
when it's
because
out,
it's-
you guys
and that's
pull it back
and that's
in.
my verdict of Skinamarink. Huh? That's the most original thing I've ever seen. I don't want to watch it again.
I will
Yeah.
I will say I did love the movie. I don't think I'm gonna own it. And
We'll get it. We'll get it for you for VHS.
I don't think I'll like, dude. If it has a VHS release, then yes. I will
We'll
buy
ask
it.
Kyle. We'll say,
I-
hey, send us like a digital
Dude-
version so we can download it onto, or
Okay.
we can transfer it over to a
First-
VHS.
If we even get to speak to him. But if we do, and he has a VHS copy of that fucking movie, you bet your ass I'm gonna own it. But this is a movie I think you get the most out of it in a theater. And you get the most out of it in a theater as long as everyone else there is respecting the movie.
And like, yeah, they're cooperating.
Yeah. I will say its home release will get more benefit from people who are streaming it to their laptops when they're sitting in their house with their headphones on.
Yeah.
However, I do want to kind of get into spoiler a little bit because I want to talk about what I think the final story is.
Okay, then let's do final verdicts right now for those who are still interested in seeing this.
I think if you're going to watch Skinamarink, it is not something that you can just be like, I'm bored, let's go watch this, I guess. I think you need to go see it with the intention of, I am going to see Skinamarink.
Mhm.
I liked it, but along with my opinion of Death Stranding, I 100% see why people wouldn't like it.
I'm in the same
'cause
boat with you for Death Stranding,
I
man.
love Death Stranding.
Dude, I love Death Stranding
loved
too, but I totally get it.
I love the horror, which is giving Hideo Kojima no barriers to make a video game.
But I also understand it's a mailman simulator.
It is a
Yeah, it is. I love the beauty of having no barriers to Hideo Kojima writing a game, but I understand the people wouldn't like the fact that he had no barriers to making a video game. That's my exact opinion about this movie. I loved it. I will die loving it, but I 100% understand why people wouldn't enjoy it like I do.
I think if you're a horror buff, this is one of those like you kind of owe it to yourself to see it.
Oh.
However, if you're not a big horror fan like
That kind of
myself,
puts it on the category of like Alien and
because a lot of
Babadook or something.
I would argue that it could maybe not be on that level, but like I feel like it deserves a spot somewhere over there,
Mhm.
just because it is original.
Mhm.
It's the buzzword I keep hearing is it's very experimental.
Which it is.
Yeah, and I would say horror fans will be on the fence 50-50 on it.
Do you think
But
it holds
I think
a-
that's the best part about it is
Yeah.
like people are going to be so divided on it. And so if you're a horror buff, you should give yourself to actually go see this movie. If you're not a big horror fan like I am, you could probably dodge it and be okay.
This is going to get a cult following
Oh,
and
for
nothing
sure.
more.
Do you think,
For sure.
with how experimental this is, do you think it holds a candle to weird Italian bullshit?
Okay. I feel
From like the 70s,
however,
80s?
I feel like that is comparing apples to oranges.
Uh-huh.
Because the weird Italian bullshit had its own flavor of weird. But this
I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but it sounds
I don't
wild.
either.
in
But I
this-
know the feeling.
What?
So okay, here I'll translate. In the 70s and 80s, Italian cinema was trying a lot. I mean, you know why there are movies called spaghetti westerns? It's because they're westerns that were filmed in Italy. That's why they're called spaghetti westerns. So
That sounds so interesting.
So Italian cinema they had been actively trying to break into American cinema and stuff like that, and
They don't have executives to bog them down.
exactly. And part of it was they made some weird ass fucking horror movies that are just weird.
You know those art students that everyone makes fun of? Yeah,
They're all from Italy.
Someone gave them a budget and didn't say no to them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think Skinamarink is in its own level of experimental. I think it is so far removed from how cinema is currently handled that it is not going to be received well in a wide sense, but I feel like certain people are going to see it for how it wants to be and appreciate it.
My verdict is that I would recommend this as a watch for academic purposes.
Yes.
Because like if you're like a filmmaker or a film student or someone that has an appreciation for cinema, this is like one of the few examples that you can use on how movies can be made. And what can be construed as like a movie. It's kind of like modern art staple or like tape a piece of wood to a toilet or something. Like for the art world, that's what this movie is. Take a bunch of like footage and then just like create a story by using audio.
Yeah. So spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So basically what's conveyed at the end is that this entity has basically plucked this house into its own existence.
Mm-hmm.
It has become its dollhouse. This is expressed through explicit dollhouse imagery and also through the fact that there's a thing that comes up that says 527 days.
572 days.
572
It
days.
doesn't say later. It just says 572 days, and you fill out the blanks from there.
So I'm interpreting it that the entity picked this family and has just been fucking with them on repeat like a dollhouse. And there's a scene shown where like you hear screaming and blood flies onto the carpet. Then it undoes it, does it again. Undoes it, does it halfway, does it again, does it again. So I feel like this entity has just been killing and fucking with these kids for all this time for fun.
Yeah.
Because it's bored.
And then there's like an explicit like thing where it's just zooms out and you see a house in the void.
Yeah. And it's a dollhouse explicitly.
Yeah.
And the very end scene is you get that blurry face going,
Go to sleep.
and
Fucking meat canyon over here.
yeah, and then the kid's just like, "What's your name?
The end.
What's your name?" And then you have some ushers go, "Yeah, bruh," as they walk. Oh my god,
That killed it for you, dude.
That ending was good. I was happy with it, but it took me out of the movie because working in theater, they put all the credits for this movie at the beginning. So like there's a lights up cue and there's a break time that's listed on schedules for the ushers to know when a movie's getting out for when they need to clean it. And normally the break time is like when the credits are starting and when they're pretty close to being able to go in. So these ushers came in to check, hey, are we good to start cleaning? Except they did it in the most obnoxious way possible instead of having any type of like awareness.
Yeah, they were really loud.
They
That
were
was
like-
surprisingly loud.
They were loud, and then they kept being loud for like 30 seconds until one of them finally got past the wall and saw that the movie was still going. And I was like, can you shut the fuck up?
But and Ritter spoke to their manager.
I did not do it to complain. I just did it to say, hey, you should probably let your ushers know that like Skinamarink just ends and the lights up cue happens. So let them know that because like the ushers came in and they were pretty loud right before the movie was over.
Yeah,
so
no, they're just like kind of like talking when you open the door, which like you shouldn't do
Yeah, you
because
shouldn't
you
do
don't
at
know
all.
when the movie's over.
yeah.
Right.
And so I did not go Karen. I was not a Karen. I was just respectfully informing the manager, hey, just to make sure you don't have any issues in the future.
So what's cool is that we got the movie for free because we asked for our money back, and all of our
Oh,
food
shut
free
up.
because we asked for our money back.
Kevin, how'd you interpret this movie?
Like I said before, it's a really good short film stretched out to 100 minutes.
No, like the storyline. What do you think happened?
Similar to Ritter because like that's just kind of like all of the things that I thought of. It's just your brain imagining all of the horrors that's going on, and it's a lot of things to kind of just like interpret and absorb. Because you're just like imagining you're trying to all you're given is just context. You're not seeing the actual thing that's happening. You're seeing like the peripherals and the aftermaths and the results of things that have happened.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to interpret to see like all of these implications.
By the way, probably one of the most messed up parts in this movie, which from a horror standpoint is fucking great. But I felt so bad for the kid and it made me go, oh no, was you hear the dial tone of the phone going, which hadn't been going for the whole film.
Yeah.
So the kid does the smart thing, calls 911.
What's also kind of cool is that like
They answer and
it's
stuff?
one of the first things that he does.
Yeah.
He just on the tone, the rhythm and the tone, like okay, he dialed 7 numbers. He's calling someone, and then you hear
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, one note and then 2 notes of the same note on it, and it's like, all right, that's 911.
Yeah.
And he tries that multiple times, and getting nothing, and then eventually like more movie happens, and then he tries again.
And
he gets through.
He's talking to someone. It's like, don't worry, someone's gonna get to you. And then it cuts to an image of it, like the
Like a
audio
flashlight?
of the person talking stops.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to a toy phone on the floor, and then it does a jump scare. But then you hear the kid go, "You did that." And then you hear the entity laughing upstairs. And my wife didn't catch it because I was talking about it on the way home. I'm like, yeah, the entity made the toy phone act like it was a real phone and then switched it back to a toy phone as a joke at the kid. And it was like, oh, that's so fucked. It's so good, though.
So in my head, how this storyline was going was this was a kid dealing with a coma and then succumbing to the coma.
Yeah, that's what my initial impression was. That I took the beginning scenes in face value, where the dad was saying like Kevin was sleepwalking and fell down some stairs.
He didn't take him
And
to the
then-
hospital, and
and-
so like the kid just died in his sleep.
And I was like, all right, so this is all of Kevin's dream, because this is very nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, this is all dream like that's happening. Nothing makes sense. There's something about like when you're in a dream, if you try to look at a clock or read anything, because since your brain is like in fill in the blanks mode, it'll look different every time you look at it.
Because another thing that was that actually kind of hit me was kind of like, you could argue that the scenes were like it was just the sister. He was just seeing what the sister was seeing. Like he was just kind of like that third person, like visually seeing what they see. Because in a lucid dream or in a dream like that, where like you'll be in someone else's body,
Yeah,
and just seeing their actions.
That's an interesting way to look at this movie, though.
Yeah, and so that was my interpretation. Was this entire thing is just him succumbing to like,
because you could also see the absence of windows and doors.
Yeah.
As like no way out of the coma.
Mhm.
And then you can also, because at the end there's imagery of just a giant door in the void. So you could also see that as like a way out.
Yeah.
That's just, but it has no doorknob. No, that's also something to note about that door.
Yeah.
It's a giant door, but it doesn't have a doorknob.
yeah.
So it's a way out that has no way for you to get out.
Mhm.
So
And
I
so
mean,
that was my interpretation. Was that, and then like the 572 days is like
how
and-
long he's been in the coma.
either how long he's been in the coma, and that's when he finally passed away,
Mm,
or that's how long he's been already gone for.
interesting. But
That's just like my interpretation, though.
or maybe that kid was super fucked and went to hell. You know, you don't know.
Because, yeah, like, I've seen, like, as a child, I would see, like, scary movies, and then those would go into my dream, and I would visually re-see what I saw in those movies.
And you're like, I'm the hero. I'm going to be.
No, I was not the hero. I would be running my butt. I'd be running down, like, the street, being chased
He
by
was kicking over the old ladies, so that way it's like, hey, if they catch them, it just gives me more time.
A recurring dream that I remember having a lot as a kid was me trying to escape my grandma's house because there were monsters in it. And the way my grandma's house was built is that, like, out of the front door is like a long stairwell that reaches down to the street because it's like kind of a mountainous neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a hilly neighborhood. And like I would fucking just jump off
Right.
to get to the bottom of the stairs as possible and run down like the street to get away. And then the dream thing of like I'm running as fast as I can, but I'm not moving.
Because for me, this is how distinctly I remember this dream too, or this nightmare, I should say, is I watched the Candyman movie,
the original,
original one.
Oh my god!
As a kid, like I was like 5, I think. 5, no, maybe 6,
Wow.
5 or 6. I don't remember. I just remember
how
it being
socially conscious of you.
And so I watched it, obviously terrified of it. Went to bed. I woke up to go to the bathroom. Well, quote unquote, this is when the nightmare started happening.
Yeah.
I woke up to go to the bathroom, and as I flushed the toilet, half a torso comes out of the bottom of the, like, crashing through the toilet from the bottom.
Oh my god.
And I was terrified. Like, it was like the head, the torso, but no arms, and it was kind of bleeding.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. So I ran. And so I ran through like the hallway, and then I start hearing rumbling, and I start seeing more torsos coming out of like behind me.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And then I get to the street. The sewers pop out with more just bodies now and body parts.
Yo, this dream is metal.
And
the bodies at the
to my left was like a toddler in diapers, but had faces on each of its sides of its heads.
Oh, the Great Tribunal.
And had like
baby tribunal.
Had 2 sets of arms. Only wore like a diaper.
Yeah.
And then was just chasing me at the same time.
Yeah.
Just trying to catch up to me. I don't know if it was a threat or not. It was just chasing me. And after running away from the torsos, I mean, you just kind of cut your losses and keep running.
Sounds like you were visited by baby Shiva.
And then I trip and I wake up. And then I went to the bathroom.
All right.
You like woke up and then you're like, wow, that was a weird middle of the night trip I took to the bathroom. I wonder if any of it was real.
Interesting. Well, I guess that's our episode on Skinamarink. I am this house.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Kevin. But the joke is that I'm pretending that I'm the main character, little kid, 4-year-old Kevin in the movie. Because
You have to whisper your name then. I'm Kevin. And that's us. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Some are pretty good, but we'll just suck as one.